Shalom and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is a recording of a Shabbat sermon by Rabbi Rebecca Schatz.
This past week, I officiated at one baby naming, 2 conversions, a Shiva minyan, and today a bar mitzvah for Zach. In fact, I was even supposed to perform a ketubah signing, but that was postponed to a later date. The full circle of life, beginning with babies and ending with death, with so many pieces of beautiful life and hopefully for many years of life in between. When I was a rabbi in Northern California, just a few months before I left to begin my role here at Beth Am, I was asked to be the lead on a new project between the 4 conservative shuls, a Chevra Kadisha, literally a holy community, a group of people trained in the procedures, the liturgy, the steps of being with a family in their first moments of grief, watching and guarding a body and preparing the mate or metah for burial. At first, I was squeamish around the idea and frustrated that I was assigned this as a task and not asked if it was something I was passionate about. However, after months of study and classes with Rabbi Stuart Kelman and David Zinner of the Gamliel Institute, I recognized the beauty, the intimacy, and the sanctity, the real kedusha of this group of people. I was never able to see the Chevra Kadisha in practice because I moved to LA just weeks after our last session. But I was called and informed that our team came together for the first time to do their first tahara for one of the teachers in the experiential school I ran, who I was close to and who I never got to see again before she died. Though I was not there, having her be the first and in the hands of our Chevra Kadisha was very special to know. This week's parsha is named Vayechi, and like Parshat Chayei Sarah, it is the story of life lived, of legacy passed on, and of Joseph and Jacob recognizing the gifts of their lives. The second verse in our parsha reads, Vayikrevu Yemei Yisrael Lamut, Vayikra Livno LeYosef. Vayomer Lo, Imna Matzatichem Be'inecha, Simna Yadcha Tachat Yerechi V'yasita Imadi, Hesed ve'emet, al na tikbereni b'mitzrayim. And the time approached for Israel, for Jacob, to die, and he summoned his son Joseph, and he said to him, if now I have found favor in your eyes, put your hand under my thigh and vow to me in Hesed ve'emet. Please do not bury me in Egypt. Hesed ve'emet. Deal with me in loving kindness and truth according to the JPS, or deal kindly and truly with me according to the Koran translation. What could that possibly mean? Well, this phrase is used in the world of Chevra Kadisha to mean that just what Jacob is asking from his son, to do something full of loving kindness and in full faith and honesty, according to tradition, according to his father's wishes, and according to what will bring Joseph the most comfort in his father's absence. Rashi comments using Breshit Rabbah, the Midrash on Genesis, to say that the mercy of truth shown to the person who has died is true kindness because it cannot be repaid. The person who has died has hopefully participated in the mitzvot of caring for those who are grieving, but will no longer be able to do so, and yet we do it for every family, hoping that one day that same mitzvah is then done for us. We participate in meal trains, we hold chuppah poles, we offer tissues at Shiva, and those are all holy actions for the living. But what do we do for the person who has left this earth? When I started at Beth Am, the idea of the Chevra Kadisha was a pie in the sky. I thought it might be possible, but in the Bay Area, I had 4 shuls, I had tons of people interested, I had teachers who lived in the area. And here? Well, how could that even happen? So I shared the dream with Rabbi Kligfeld. He agreed, and it went on the list of projects I hope to start and see take shape in my time at Temple Beth Am. In October, just a few weeks after that initial conversation, I found myself thrown into a grieving family for someone I was close to, someone who was more than just a congregant, but a parent, a teacher, the person I chose to be my first house call on my very first day of work at Temple Beth Am. I had been part of family simchas and vice versa, and this was a big loss. I ended up doing shmirah for the body because of the situation of this person's death, and in that moment, I knew others needed to do this work with me. Beth Am is too much of a family, too committed to one another to not participate in the work of caring for one of their own as their soul is waiting to be tucked in to a final resting place. 1 month before the pandemic hit, I met with my friend and colleague at Ikar to begin the formation of our joint Chevra Kadisha. Chizkuni comments on Hesed Emet to say that it refers to giving someone more than they are entitled to expect, or asking them to do something beyond what they are entitled to demand. Jacob asking Joseph to treat his body and soul a certain way after he is physically not on this earth is not more than he is entitled to demand, but doing so with loving kindness and connection to tradition and ritual is beyond expected and true holiness. The Dad Zakanim says something similar, that the request for where to be buried is expected and normal for preparations one generation to the next. However, the extra steps Joseph takes to show honor and love to his father, that is true chesed. We hope to do this for our parents and our grandparents based on their wishes. And now we as a community hope to do this for one another, for our friends, our pewmates, those who we daven with, eat cholent with, come January 1st, 2022, shmooze with, etc. The Chevra Kadisha at Temple Beth Am in partnership with Ikar is well underway, and we need you. We need people who care about their community. We need people who care about those in life and in death. We need people who see the holiness in the moments that are joyful and the moments that break us open. We need you because one day we will be there for you and you will need us. The Chevra Kadisha has many more roles than just the ritual of Tahara. There is holiness from the moment of sending out a list to gather people for Shmirah. There is holiness in calling the cemeteries to understand logistics. There is holiness in preparing meal trains for the family. And there is holiness sitting with the deceased or preparing their body for burial. It is all holy because it is all done with the utmost truth and loving kindness. The Shnei Luchot HaBrit says the main ingredient of chesed, of kindness, is that it is to be performed without expectation of reward. Only when performed thus is one called generous. There's no greater virtue than that of chesed. This is why a person must train themselves to practice this virtue until it becomes second nature. Not only should we perform acts of kindness for the dead, but even more so for the living. In my work with the Chevra Kadisha thus far, I cannot agree with this statement, this commentary more. The profound awe, sanctity, spiritual connection through the ritual aspects, and the overwhelming emotion and gratitude and inspiration felt when a group is asked and everyone cannot say yes quick enough. The ritual is for the person who has died, but the mitzvah is for the living. The 4 families who have asked for tahara for their loved ones in the past 6 weeks or so have been held by this community in the most profound of ways. We should all be so lucky to be part of something so special. Jacob knew that his legacy, his life continued in the ways that his sons came together, even in his death. Zach, today you become a bar mitzvah, and working with you on your drash about blessing just echoes this drash about chesed and emet, loving kindness and truth. We need to know the people before us, next to us, and behind us to give them the blessings they deserve. Like Ephraim and Menashe receiving their blessing for who they are, not just the order they were born. You, Zach, recognize how important it is to see a person in their uniqueness, to hold them accountable for what they can do in this world and how they bless us. Our Chevra Kadisha does the same thing. We see a person in the toughest of moments and bring out the holiness. We hold a family in their hardest hour and we say, we've got this. Your community is here. We see the person and we give them one last individual and meaningful blessing. And it comes from a person who knows them, who really saw them, who truly can give an individual blessing based on their heart and soul, even one last time. Eliezer Berkovitz, in his work Man and God, said Hesed ve'emet would then be loving kindness that is sure, that is reliable, that endures, and maybe even irrevocable. Zach, I hope for you that your life is full of truly seen people, giving blessing and not apologizing for the way that you see the godliness and the goodliness in them, like Ephraim and Manasseh. And Betham, I bless all of you to learn more about our Chevra Kadisha, and to join if you're interested. We need people who are committed to seeing the holiness and even the last moments of the life cycle. In the baby naming, conversion, Shiva, and today's bar mitzvah, I saw community gathering as a true chevra, and a holy one at that. So now there is one more opportunity to gather, and we invite you to see it as an act of Chesed Shel Emet, true loving kindness. In community, for those you love, for those you see clearly, and for those who deserve blessing in death, because you gave it to them in their life.
You have been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast site or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about Temple Beth Am Los Angeles, go to tbala.org.